All right, we're jumping right into a really chilling story today, one that comes from Thailand's The Ghost Radio. It kicks off like a dream vacation, but believe me, it spirals into an absolute nightmare.
And this whole thing really makes you wonder, can one single, thoughtless sentence actually have deadly consequences? We're about to follow a group of friends whose trip awakens a centuries-old horror, all because of one little mistake.
So let's set the scene. We're going back about 5 years. Picture a group of good friends on a summer hiking trip in the beautiful mountains of Japan. I mean, it sounds like the perfect escape, right?
So in the group, you've got Sun, Woot, and Aram, and they're with their Japanese friend Shoto, who's kind of acting as their local guide. They're all set for a simple 4-day getaway. The hike itself was amazing. The views were just breathtaking, and their final stop for the day was this traditional guest house, promising a really authentic experience.
So they're exhausted after the long hike, but they finally make it to the guest house. And it's one of those classic Japanese buildings, the kind that feels like it's from another time. They get checked in and split up into 2 rooms right next to each other. The Thai friends get room number 5, and Shoto ends up in the even-numbered room number 6. Now, you're going to want to remember that room number. It becomes very, very important.
Later that night, everybody's at the guest house bar just unwinding. But this is the moment. This is where a little bit of alcohol and one careless comment is about to set off the first domino in a truly horrifying chain of events.
It turns out Shoto was a bit of a lightweight. A few drinks in, and he's already pretty drunk. So he decides, you know what, I'm going to call it a night. And he heads back to the room, leaving his friends to keep the party going.
As he's stumbling down the hall, he spots a woman in a traditional kimono, standing way back in a dark corner. And in his drunken state, he calls out this really dumb, disrespectful line. He probably didn't even think twice about it before he walked into his room and passed out.
But she didn't forget, and back in room 6, Shoto was about to learn a terrifying lesson. Some words should just never, ever be spoken out loud.
Not even 30 minutes go by before a weird sound cuts through the silence. Kukak, kukak. It's this strange rattling, and it's coming from inside the sealed closet where they keep the spare bedding. At first, he probably just brushed it off, figuring it's the booze or the old house settling.
But then, another sound starts up. It's a woman's voice, very faint and raspy, and she's singing. It seems to be coming from outside, which is just impossible. Remember, the friends were the only guests in the entire place.
Shoto is wide awake now, and he's staring at that closet door. He watches, completely frozen in terror, as the door starts to slide open all by itself. First, a pale white hand slips through the gap, and then a woman's head emerges from the darkness, its neck just stretching and elongating, slithering through the air like a serpent.
Now here's the kicker. Because Shoto is Japanese, he knows exactly what he's looking at. This isn't just some ghost. This is a Rokurokubi, a long-necked specter, a terrifying creature straight out of Japanese folklore. It's his culture's worst nightmare come to life right in front of him.
This horrifying face just floats across the room until it's hovering just inches from his own. It stares at him for a second, and then it slowly sticks its tongue out. And that was it. That's the breaking point. Shoto just screams, throws himself out of the room, and runs for his life back to his friends.
So you can imagine the scene. His friends are trying to calm down a hysterical Shoto, probably thinking he's just had a drunken nightmare. But they are all about to find out that his terror was no delusion. It was very, very real. So they all crowd into the other room, room number 5, and they peek through the door. They see the shadow of a woman in a kimono pass by. Once, twice, a third time, but on the 4th pass, it's not a full body. It's just the head, floating silently down the hall. Completely paralyzed with fear, they watch as it drifts to each paper lantern, and with a flick of its tongue, it licks the flame out, one by one, plunging the entire hallway into darkness. And then, in that final moment, right before the last light goes out, the floating head turns to face their room. Sun, who understands Japanese, hears it utter a single chilling phrase. Its final promise, "I will take him."
The next morning, they couldn't get out of there fast enough. They confront the manager, and his response? He gives them a full refund, a quick apology, and a flat-out lie. "We have no female employees here." But their Uber driver on the way out of town, he tells them the real story. Oh yeah, the management knew exactly what was going on in that place.
The driver tells them this absolutely horrific history. A female employee had been brutally murdered by her ex-husband,
in one of the even-numbered rooms, and then he'd stuffed her body into the storage closet, the very same closet from room #6. So the spirit wasn't just some random entity, it was her, and she was back for revenge.
They thought by fleeing the guest house they'd escape the nightmare. But they would soon learn the curse wasn't tied to the location anymore. It was tied directly to Shoto.
In the 2 weeks that followed, Shoto just completely unraveled. The haunting had followed him home. He was tormented by nightmares, night after night, of the ghost promising to take him. He became a recluse, and his mom could hear him talking to himself and singing that same eerie song. His family, desperate, brought in exorcists, but every single one of them said the same thing. The spirit was too powerful, and it had latched onto him because, in their words, he did something bad.
The story ends with a truly horrifying final image. Shoto's mother found him. He had taken his own life. But the scene itself was just grotesque. His eyes were wide open. He had red lipstick smeared on his mouth in the shape of a heart, and he was in the process of trying to dress himself in a woman's kimono. The entity had kept its promise. It had taken him.
And that leaves us with this really unsettling question. The exorcists were clear. The spirit took him because he did something bad. We know about his drunken, careless comment. But was that really enough to earn such a horrific fate? Or, in those few moments he was alone, did Shoto do something else? Something he never confessed. Something that truly sealed his doom.